All right. Okay.
My
we're in the
gonna
shot.
work. Okay.
That's working.
Is it rolling?
It's rolling.
All right. Cool.
Now it's Nick
Good.
Reynolds, right?
It is. Yep.
Great. Well, hey everyone. Today I got Nick Reynolds here. He is the owner at Chick-fil-A in City Creek, and from what I've heard, it's the most. You guys sell the most sandwiches at any other Chick-fil-A in the state. Is
No,
that
not
correct?
entirely. No, so we have a really busy front counter. As
Okay.
far as the inside the restaurant, we have one of the busier locations. We don't have a drive-through though, so we aren't the busiest location in the state, but
Okay.
we're among. But we're definitely a busy restaurant. So,
I see.
yeah.
Okay. Very cool. How old are you? Let's start with that.
I'm 33.
33.
Yeah.
And when did you get into the Chick-fil-A business?
So it was just about 3 years ago. If you would have told me 5 years ago that I was going to be doing what I am now, I would have said, "What? You're crazy. Chick-fil-A,
crazy.
what?" But no, so I started looking at it about 4 years ago. Went through it's a pretty lengthy, robust interview process that Chick-fil-A has before they decide who they want to partner with. So that was about an 8-month process, and then I've been in about 3 years. So yeah.
Wow.
Still relatively new.
Yeah, that's pretty new. So you've ran it for about 4 years, you said?
No, 3 years.
3 years. So
3
3
years.
years been
Yeah.
running it. Okay.
Yeah.
It's been 4 years since you've been going through this process.
Yeah, since I started the process.
Okay, that makes
Exactly.
more sense. The Chick-fil-A's been around longer for 3 years. Am I wrong?
This Chick-fil-A?
Has-
Yeah, so
is it
City
that
Creek
new?
was built in 2012, so 5.5 years ago.
Okay.
The original owner, he ended up leaving this franchise to go open up a different Chick-fil-A further south.
Oh.
And so when I was going through my interview process, I got a phone call one day from Chick-fil-A corporate saying, "Hey, there's a franchise available. It's yours if you want it, so to speak." So that's how it
Really?
came to pass. So.
Okay. Let's go back just a little bit more. What
Yeah.
were you doing before Chick-fil-A?
So prior to Chick-fil-A, my wife and I were originally from Utah, but I moved out of state in 2010 to do an MBA program at the University of Illinois.
Okay.
And then after graduating, we moved to Chicago. And I was in marketing and consulting there. So worked for a big Fortune 500 company. It was a good job. I enjoyed it. But I knew I wanted to run my own business someday. I had done some stuff prior to serving an LDS mission where I was running my own business. And so I always wanted to do that. It was always in the back of my mind. And when I heard about the unique franchise opportunity that Chick-fil-A is, that's what really piqued my interest. Of course, I consider myself an entrepreneur, but it's different being an entrepreneur with a franchise versus if you go out and organically start your own thing.
Right.
I think there's definitely pros and cons to both, but it's been an incredible experience so far. So.
Wow. All right. So you were you just working over there in Chicago when you got the phone call? Hey, is Chick-fil-A here if you want it?
Yeah, so I had already started the process. So the way that it worked with Chick-fil-A is I had submitted, it's pretty basic, but I had gone online and submitted an expression of interest.
Okay.
And just said, hey, I'd be interested in doing a Chick-fil-A. They get like 25 to 30,000 of those expressions every year.
I'm sure.
So it was kind of like, yeah, I'm interested, but I never imagined it would go anywhere just because of the competitive nature of it. And so I'd gone through about 5 rounds of interviews, and they said, we think we want you to partner with you and allow you to buy one of our franchises. We just have to wait to see what becomes available. So yeah, it was in November of 2014. I got a call one afternoon, and they said, hey, City Creek and Salt Lake City is opening up, and Utah was one of the areas that I was looking at, being from out in this area. And so I flew to Atlanta the next week. They did a final interview. Chick-fil-A always does a final interview with the franchisee and his or her spouse. So they met my wife, we interviewed, and then it was official at that point. So
Wow.
So yeah, it was cool. So even though they do this interview process, a lot of people have said, well, basically you're just interviewing for a job. That's actually not true. So I'm considered I have an LLC that I have set up. I'm considered an independent business owner, but in partnership with Chick-fil-A.
With Chick-fil-A.
Yeah. And that's how the franchise model usually works.
So hypothetically, you could run a bunch of different Chick-fil-A's, also a bunch of Wendy's, or whatever you really wanted to.
Hypothetically,
you could.
yes, and franchise owners do that. However, Chick-fil-A has a unique stipulation where they say that, hey, if you're part of my operating agreement with them is that I will not operate competing brands.
Okay.
So it's pretty much just Chick-fil-A.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so if I said, hey, I want to go buy a Wendy's franchise, and Chick-fil-A saw that, then I would be in violation of my agreement, and I would either have to get rid of Wendy's or I'd have to leave Chick-fil-A.
Interesting.
We really feel like that's part of the success of Chick-fil-A as a brand overall, is that the franchise owners, they call us owner operators, we're really involved in the business. So, I'm in my restaurant most days. Some days it might be only an hour or two. Some days it might be 8 hours, depending on what's going on. But I know my leadership team really well. I know most of my team members, and so I'm active, involved, able to see. Are we meeting the food safety requirements in the kitchen? Are we serving our guests the right way, and so forth? And we really believe that that's what has allowed Chick-fil-A to be as successful as it has. Whereas other franchise models, there might be one owner that owns 5, 10, 15, 20 units.
Right.
And how often is that owner actually seeing his or her day-to-day operations?
There's just no way they could.
They're not, and so customer service can fall by the wayside, quality can fall by the wayside. And so this allows the brand to really have a unique focus by having the owners heavily involved. The other stipulation is right now you can only own up to 3 Chick-fil-A restaurants under the model. And even that's rare. Most people just have 1, and then a few more have 2. So but that's so that you can maintain that focus on the individual units.
I see. So every single Chick-fil-A we see is owner operated.
It is, yeah. There's a handful out there that are corporate owned just in between transitions. So let's say one owner leaves and they'll have what they call an interim manager go in and run it in the meantime. But no, they're always focused on getting another owner in there.
Really? So
yeah, all 25 stores in Utah right now, they're all independently owned.
That's interesting. There's 25 in Utah.
Right.
Why? So when you were originally, thinking, okay, I got to get out of this corporate job, I want to start a business, why would you go to Chick-fil-A?
It's a great question. So I had no interest in the restaurant business before this, to be honest. Chick-fil-A has a very unique franchise model as far as it's a low barrier of entry financially. Okay. So most franchises, you're spending $500,000, $1 million, $3 million.
I mean, isn't it $1 million to build a McDonald's? To buy a McDonald's?
Yeah, I think it's $1 million to buy in, but then you've got to build the store. You've got to have the.
It's $1 million.
You've got to furnish it. Yeah, I don't know exactly what McDonald's is, but with Chick-fil-A, it's a very low barrier to entry financially. So that piqued my interest. But then also just seeing the values that Chick-fil-A has, closed on Sunday, really involved in the community, very big focus on leadership development as far as developing our team members, whether they're team members that stay with us for the long term, or we're developing them to be better members of our own community and they go elsewhere. A lot of those aspects really caught my interest on saying, wow, this is a pretty incredible company. So
interesting. So I guess the values of Chick-fil-A as a business owner, like you said, would be, higher quality, better people, and low financial engagement initially.
Yeah, and that better people part of it really is the leadership. We have a tremendous focus on leadership development, both for myself personally, and also my directors that I have helping run the restaurant, all the way down to our team members. We really invest a lot of time and energy into the development of our team. But if you think about it, when we're doing that in turn allows people to have a positive experience when they come to Chick-fil-A, and it makes them want to continue to come back. And that is really a big part of what has fueled our growth. Over the past several years, but even just the last 2 or 3 years, we continue to see incredible double-digit growth chain-wide. So yeah, it's unique, that's for sure.
Okay. It seems like it'd be a miracle that you would ever get the opportunity to pick up a Chick-fil-A, especially the one in City Creek as busy as that one is. Why would someone ever leave a franchise?
So we have, last numbers I saw, we had about a 97% retention rate among franchise owners. So we have very, very, very few leave once they own a franchise. And people might die. That's an unfortunate way that people leave. They might get old enough where they just can't really do the business anymore. But other than that, it's extremely rare where you'll see a franchise owner leave the business. So, I mean, it does happen, but it's pretty rare. As far as like when City Creek opened up, that individual, he didn't leave the Chick-fil-A business. He got out of that specific location and got a different location, if that makes sense. So oftentimes they will come available when that happens, when one owner-operator transitions from one restaurant to another. Okay. The other way that it happens is just by building new stores. So Chick-fil-A right now, they're building, I think there'll be about 130 more stores in the United States next year. Wow. So obviously that's an opportunity.
Any in Utah?
We're going to have one in the Riverton Bluffdale area, but that's it. Yeah, we've built a lot over the last few years, so the next few years is going to be a little bit slower on the new growth, and it's going to be more focused on the existing restaurants and helping us continue to build our base and the brand overall.
Wow.
So
That's pretty interesting. I want to take this a little more personal real quick.
Yeah.
I'm from a small town called Pocatello, Idaho. Everyone in my town loves your product. They love Chick-fil-A.
you're wondering when one's going to come up there, right?
Exactly. How do we get one
What's your
installed
population in Pocatello?
Oh, man. The sign says about 57,000,
Okay.
but I bet you we're a little bit higher than that now.
So I can tell you, I look at the real estate map for the West every once in a while. There's nothing that I've seen slated as forthcoming in Pocatello, but with a population that size, it's feasible. Chick-fil-A has said they like to build in areas where there's at least 80 to 100,000 people or more.
Okay.
So we've got it in Twin Falls, we've got a few in Boise, there's one up in Idaho Falls. Yeah, I can't speak for our real estate group, but
Right.
I could foresee one someday coming to Pocatello, but it could be 15, 20 years away, or
Right,
it could be
we don't
5 years
know
away.
that. Huh.
No way of telling. And part of the reason why Chick-fil-A is not focused as much on smaller communities is because we're still pretty small, relatively speaking, as far as the number of restaurants.
Okay.
So KFC has way more restaurants than we do, even though we surpassed them in sales a long time ago.
Yeah.
So our average sales per restaurant is really high. But I mean, we only got into Seattle 3 years ago, in Seattle, Washington. Portland, Oregon was a year later. The entire northeastern part of the United States is severely undertapped. California still has significant growth within Chick-fil-A. So when our real estate group looks at new restaurant, at building new restaurants, they'll look at, obviously, as I think any business would, the highest population
Right, the most
areas
lucrative
first. So
opportunity.
it's to say that it's not going to never come to Pocatello, but it's probably not a priority right now.
It's not
No
a priority.
offense to the good people of Pocatello.
They are good
So,
people. But,
yes.
Oh my goodness.
Tell them to just come down to City Creek when they come to Salt Lake, and we'll take care of them.
They
So,
do. They do. Everyone I know has been to your store at least once or twice.
Awesome.
How is Okay, so can we talk a little bit more about those priorities then? So when
Yeah.
you're choosing a restaurant, what other factors go into choosing a location for a new restaurant?
So one thing that they will look at, we talked about just overall population, right? That's a big one. They're not going to, I don't think they're going to build one in, Brigham City anytime soon, just because
Right.
it's small. So population's a huge one. Another one is they'll look at proximity to another Chick-fil-A restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
So when they build a new store, they'll say, okay, is this too close to another restaurant? And if that owner isn't either competitive or doesn't want a second restaurant, well, us building this new restaurant that might only be 2 miles away, is that going to hurt their business?
Right.
So they'll take that into consideration because they don't want to screw another operator, so to speak, by building a new restaurant. So they take that into consideration. Obviously, just the busyness of the cross streets and the specific location within an area.
Interesting. So with a lot of fast food restaurants, it seems like a lot of them just kind of popped overnight. Like we look at the history of like McDonald's or Wendy's, there's a lot of locations right now. And when they scaled, they really just blew across the United States. What is keeping Chick-fil-A from doing that? I mean, it seems like they're popular enough where they could.
Yep.
Why the slow growth?
So the number one reason is we have no debt as a company, zero.
Wow.
So if you look at a lot of these large franchise chains that have grown like they have, they leverage debt, right? They'll either go public and they'll issue stock, or they'll take out tremendous amount of debt, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. That's how a lot of businesses grow, and that's what allows a business to grow extremely quickly. But we have a saying at Chick-fil-A that we like to use where we say we climb with care and confidence. We're confident that we can continue to grow and that we will build hundreds of more restaurants, thousands potentially, but we want to do it carefully. If we went and borrowed a lot of money and went into debt and, I don't know, say build 400 or 500 a year, are we going to get ahead of our success?
I see.
Is our supply chain, is our chicken suppliers, is our waffle fries suppliers, are they going to be able to keep up with that? And you can read case studies out there where restaurants have built too fast and they can't keep ahead of it. I'm not going to name it here on this video, but there's a popular chain that has had a lot of food safety concerns as they've grown really fast. A lot of outbreaks in the Northeast, parts in California, and so forth. And that's because they got ahead of their supply chain, and in my opinion, they almost built too fast. And so, not taking on debt is really the biggest piece. Is we're saying, hey, we want to be a debt-free company. We want to build as we're profitable as a chain. And as we continue to increase sales, that provides more money, and that allows us to build those approximately 125 stores each year. Mm-hmm. But we don't want to go nuts and build a lot more than that, both from the debt standpoint and also we want to make sure that we can keep up with the growth.
See, wow. So man, that franchise model is pretty interesting.
Yeah, and it's really unique with Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, that is. It seems like you guys are really taking care. It shows in your food. I mean, you have really high quality food. It's lovely to eat. Let's focus a little bit more on let's go back to your story just a
Yeah,
little bit.
absolutely.
You said you never even thought about running a restaurant before
Right.
you considered Chick-fil-A. What was that journey like? Because I mean, you obviously have to know what you're doing now. You know about food.
Right.
What was that journey like for you, transitioning from marketing or consulting to, hey, I'm a food guy? What was that like for you and your family?
It was a crazy journey. So my first day in the restaurant, March 1st, 2015, there had actually been a Chick-fil-A interim manager that was hired by corporate to just help run it for a couple months in between the ownership change. So February 28th, I went in, met with him for like an hour. He gave me the keys. He's all right. He's like, all right, good luck, man. So that first day in the restaurant, it was just like, whoa, like what did I get myself into? But that being said, when there's a new owner, a new franchise owner that doesn't have Chick-fil-A experience, which I didn't, other than I'd spent a few days in some restaurants in Chicago, meeting with the owners there and kind of working alongside them. But since I really had no restaurant experience, I actually spent about 5 weeks at our corporate headquarters down in Atlanta, Georgia, learning the restaurant business. So we spent 2 weeks in a simulated kitchen. Mm-hmm. So we learned all about breading chicken and our pressure cookers and doing fries and making salads and kind of all the operational side of the business. We of course looked at financing and accounting and marketing and all that makes up that. Mm-hmm. But as far as the restaurant business specifically, it was those 2 weeks. Then I went and spent another full week out at a real Chick-fil-A in Sacramento, California, with an operator coach is what they call it. So it's someone that's currently a franchise owner, mm-hmm. and he or she will be a coach. And so I went and spent a week with him to learn the business. And so, and I certainly wasn't expert at it, and I'm certainly not the fastest in the kitchen, but that's okay. I'm the franchise owner. I need to know how to do that stuff, but I don't need to be 100% proficient at it. Mm-hmm. That's why we have good people that work back there that can do that.
Wow.
So my team will give me a hard time sometimes because I will go back and help, and they're like, "Come on, Nick, work faster." And I'm like, "Hey guys, this is not my forte
nice
to be the fastest person on fries."
Right.
But I think it means a lot to the team when they see that we as the owners, we can do it, right? We know how to do it. We understand the business, and if we need to, we can roll up our sleeves and get back there and help. Nice. So it's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed being out of corporate America. I've really enjoyed not sitting behind a desk and being in meetings for 8 to 12 hours every day. I have, even though I'm partnered with this brand, I have 100% freedom as far as the time I spend in the restaurant, where I go with my family. If I want to take a vacation, I don't have to, ask for time off, no vacation days. So, but on the flip side, when it's super busy and we've got people out, then I'll go in and help. So there's certainly benefits, but there's also drawbacks to, running your own business.
Of course. So, what is what is your number one skill you have to run a successful franchise like you do?
The number one skill? That's a good question. I think, at least for me, I think the number one thing that I have to do, and this is a skill that I'm still developing, is patience with people. So our people are the number one most important part of our organization. And any business will say that, right? It's their people. Because if you don't have good employees, good team members as we call them, the business will suffer and things won't be able to function or grow like you'd like them to. I often say that the people are the best and the worst part of the business. They're the best because I really enjoy the people that work for me. I enjoy my leadership. I enjoy meeting with them, strategizing with them, planning out restaurant growth, and how we can develop team members, training. But at the same time, people aren't like machines or recipes that we can get down perfect. Machine breaks, get a new one. A part breaks, you get a new part, and it works exactly the same way every day, unless something breaks and you fix it. It's not that way with people, right? With people, it's the most rewarding, but it's the most challenging as well. So you got to have a lot of patience, I think, with people who you're hiring, who you're developing. We'll sometimes have people just up and quit and leave because they found another job, and it makes you want to, shake them and be like, "What were you thinking?" But they have the freedom to do that, and so it has taken a lot of patience from the people side of things.
Interesting. Patience with people.
Yep.
Very cool. Let's talk a little bit about, I do want to ask you, I'm still trying to figure out how to phrase this next question. It's going to be along the lines of, what has been your biggest mistake? And I usually ask this, but I feel a little bit uncomfortable asking this sometimes because people that are successful have a hard time, I don't know, expressing, what their biggest pitfall ever was, or their
Right.
biggest weakness.
Biggest weakness in the last 3 years, or just in general?
Yeah,
or?
let's talk about running Chick-fil-A. What's been the biggest mistake you've made?
I don't know if I would necessarily label this as a mistake more than maybe immaturity in the business or oversight. I guess you could call it a mistake. But we have we've been heavily focused on growing sales over the last almost 3 years. We've grown our sales by about 60% in the last 2.5 years, which has been phenomenal. There's much to be grateful for. But I think one thing that I've learned through that is, just as I was talking about with Chick-fil-A as a whole, as a chain, even at our single restaurant, we've got to make sure that we don't get ahead of ourselves on the growth. And we've seen that a little bit in 2017, where we've continued to just grow, phenomenal numbers from a sales standpoint, but what does that do to our team? And we've seen some areas where we've had some chinks in our armor, where our leadership may not be as strong as it needs to be. There may be some practices going on that need some attention. So our primary focus for 2018 is leadership development and training of our team members. Really getting them from the level of being good to great. So I think that's perhaps one mistake that I've made, is being so focused on the growth, which is a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to be growing and having increases in sales. It is exciting, but there's a lot that needs to be focused on and attention given to other areas. So I would say that for anybody that's running their own business or starting their own business, is make sure you don't let the success of the business outpace your ability to keep up with it and to keep those people that I talked about earlier, humming right along, well trained, well educated, and also functioning as leaders in the restaurant. Because oftentimes in restaurants you think about a general manager or someone that manages the business. Well, we have that, but we like to think of our team members or members of our management team really as leaders. And there's a big difference, in my opinion, between a manager and a leader. So.
Wow. I only have 2 more questions for you.
You're good.
The first one is, what is the number one thing you've done to increase your sales in 2017?
Oh, number one. Can I do like 2 or 3?
We'll give you 3. We'll give you 3.
So I think that really the number one thing is the ability to provide a positive experience for our customers. So we focus on 4 things when it comes to serving our guests. We want to have extremely high quality, tasty food,
Okay.
Provide surprisingly fast service, have attentive and courteous employees, and to have a clean restaurant. So if you think about that, if you go into any restaurant, you want the food to taste great. You don't want it to take forever to come out, right? Especially if you're going to a quick serve restaurant, you want it to be fast. Friendly, happy employees always help. You've probably gone into some places before and the person looks like they definitely don't want to be there. Yeah, they don't want to be there. And then a clean restaurant. So we feel like that when we can operate on all 4 of those cylinders, which we're not perfect at it, but we feel like we're pretty good at it, that allows people to continue to come. And we've seen about a 45,000 transaction count increase in 2017. So what we do is we look at all of our transactions in 2016, all of them this time. What's the delta between those?
Wow.
And we've conducted 45,000 more transactions in 2017 than we did in 16, which is, and each transaction's about 1.5 people.
Yeah.
So if you look at that, that's 65,000-70,000 more people that we've served. And so we feel like that when we can provide that extremely fast, high quality, friendly service in a clean restaurant, that allows people to continue to come back. Wow. And we see an increase in sales. Second thing is catering. Catering is growing pretty big for Chick-fil-A all over, but especially for us downtown here with all the businesses that are around. We've seen an enormous spike in our catering business, so that's helped with sales as well.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I remember there was an event they had here at the business college where you catered the whole thing.
Yeah, it was box lunches.
It was the box lunches.
Yep,
that was
I remember that. Yeah, we do those weekly or more. So.
Wow. Was there a third one you wanted to mention?
The third one that's been a big help for us is we actually have 2 locations at the Vivint Arena, down where the Jazz play.
Oh, really?
We've got one on the main concourse and then one on the upper concourse.
And so you must run those as well?
We do. All of the food is
Okay.
prepared out of City Creek. So we're at all the Jazz games, concerts, conventions, and so forth. As long as it's not on a Sunday, we'll be
Right.
down there selling, and that's been a big part of the business increase as well.
Wow.
So yeah.
Dang, Nick. Well, hey, that's a really cool story. Really cool, just how the business is run, the quality you guys provide, and your story. The fact that it blows my mind that you factored from like no restaurant experience, 8-month period, and here you are running a really successful Chick-fil-A.
It's been a crazy
That's way cool.
journey, but it's been a lot of fun too.
That's
so.
really fun. So I just want to ask you one more question. This is kind of unrelated to entrepreneurship. It's more about, were you around? Yeah, you would have been around when the owner of Chick-fil-A came out. I can't remember exactly what he said. He said something that really made the LGBTQ community freak out. What was that experience like for you? Like,
So he was doing a
what's your
personal
story?
interview, and someone just asked about his personal beliefs regarding same-sex marriage, and he professed his beliefs that he believes that it's between a man and a woman, and of course, you know, what happened
Yeah.
with it. So yeah, that's what that. What was your question specifically?
As a franchise owner, how did that affect you?
Yeah, so I actually wasn't. This was back in 2012.
Oh, that
so
was
this
that
was
long ago?
before.
Oh, excuse me.
But no, so yeah, again, I don't want to get into the politics of it.
Yeah.
But we've continued to see growth since then. In many ways, in exponential growth.
Really?
With that, so.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm all out of questions, Nick.
All right.
That was a wonderful interview. Thank you very much for your
Hey,
time.
it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.